Okay, we're live, dinosaurs and dragons. Sorry, I totally spaced out for a second on what we were talking about. I know what I'm talking about. But we have finally gotten to the place in Job. This is my favorite chapter of Job. And so we left off a little early on chapter 40. So we're picking up chapter 40 and starting in verse 15. And I'm not going to recap tonight because I'll do that next week. But we'll do like a whole recap next week. But right now we're just going to go into chapter 40, verse 15. This is when the Lord is rebuking Job. And he has said to him, gird up your loins and basically, brace yourself like a man because now I'm going to ask you the questions and you're going to answer me. So as he's going through all of these, have you done this? Were you there when I did this? Were you there when I did that? So now he's gotten to these two animals, and not just because it's kind of an amazing fact that they're in the Bible, not just for that reason, but we're going to talk some at the end too about a deeper layer of possible meaning behind these two creatures. So let's just pick up. We're doing a little different tonight. We're doing we're having it projected on the screen there, but we have the first animal that he's going to be talking about here is called the behemoth. And it is described in some commentaries, like you might have a Bible that has notes at the bottom that suggest that it could be an elephant or a hippopotamus. But I think that if you listen to the description of it, you will see that there's no possible way that this is an elephant or a hippopotamus. So let's just start verse 15. Look now at the behemoth which I made along with you. So for number one, he is declaring right here that he made man and whatever this beast that you decide is, which I believe is a dinosaur, were made together. I made him along with you. Taylor's already mad. He eats grass like an ox. See now his strength in his hips and his power in his stomach muscles. He moves his tail like a cedar. As far as the last time I checked, elephants didn't have tails like a cedar. Or a hippo. The sinews of his thighs are tightly knit, and his bones are like beams of bronze. His ribs are like bars of iron. He is the first of many of the ways of God. Only he who made him can bring near his sword. I have a comment in here because this is very difficult Hebrew. And what it sometimes is rendered, he is chief of God's works, made to be tyrant over his peers, made to be a tyrant over his peers. So we're going to talk, when we wrap this up at the end, some deeper layers of meanings about these two animals. So just keep that in mind, that this behemoth is made to be a tyrant over his peers. Surely the mountains yield food for him, and all the beasts of the fields play there. He lies under the lotus trees in a covert of reeds and marsh or swamps. So today, reports today, and there's many, not just one or two, they constantly come in modern times. In the Congo of Zaire, there is a 55,000 mile swamp. That's a huge mile swamp that has continual reports of dinosaur-like creatures still existing today. And when this was first discovered, which I think it was in the 70s, I could be wrong, but I think it was in the 70s when it was first discovered, the explorers, the people who made contact with these tribes, they presented to them, because once they understood what they were saying and they were having conversation and they were describing these big creatures, what they did was they presented to them, because you have to remember, a tribe in the Congo does not have any dog in this fight. They're not even aware that there is such an argument among people as were dinosaurs 70 million years ago? Are they around today? They don't know anything about paleontology. This is just their life. This is just their world. So what they did is they presented to them pictures of certain animals, and they purposely gave them pictures of animals that were not native to that area. And they also gave them pictures of, I think it's a brachiosaur or a sauropod. I'm not sure. I'm not the dinosaur expert on the which one is which, but which one is it?
It's like the Bronchosaurus.
The what?
Bronchiosaur.
The brachiosaur? That's what I thought. The brachiosaur. Okay, so they showed them a picture of that, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's what it is." And the tribes there, they actually describe at one point. They said they managed to spear one to death once, but everyone who ate the meat of it died, so they never did that again. That's just what. That's just kind of a report. I don't even know if that's true, but that's just interesting. Something they said. So, so So that's just one report that is continual, that comes in continually. Still today, is that there's reports from that place. There's a more modern, I forget what channel it's on. It's either Hulu or Netflix, but there's one of those mystery, like hunting Bigfoot type of shows. But it was talking about dinosaur reports in Alaska. There's like a triangle in Alaska where they describe dinosaurs that would be similar to like a velociraptor up there. So that's just I don't know, but there's people that say that they've encountered these. So it's up to you. However, I do it.
In the newest Jurassic Park movies, that's where Jurassic Park is in Alaska.
Oh, really? Is in Alaska? You like those dinosaurs?
The actual Jurassic Park is in Alaska.
A triceratops.
Yeah.
You're so smart.
Alexa,
So what he's seeing, because he's so smart over here, he's looking at these pictures right here that I printed out. So these are examples of dinosaur depictions that are in ancient artwork.
Can I just say really quick?
Yes.
He saw the artwork and said that's Stegosaurus. Like he knew it was like a little baby knew
You're
what
right.
it was and had no other guess besides what actually.
What is?
Yeah, he didn't.
He didn't say elephant. You're right. So let me put these back up. Now, once Dylan gets this up to YouTube, he'll have these up on the screen. But these are this one right here. You can see there's actually obviously a guy riding the Triceratops, and whether or not they did that, I couldn't tell you. But there's
this is not the only. There's paintings.
Not the only one.
There's paintings of riding the
other
types of dinosaurs
Oh, okay.
too.
So there's paintings of people riding other types of dinosaurs.
This
is literally just a little sample. I mean, there's many samples of ancient artwork where you have dinosaurs. So this one, I don't know if it shows up here on the screen, but that one you see is obviously a cave painting. And then down here is, I forget where this one was, but this one is obviously is it a Stegosaurus? Is that what he said? Or a Stegosaurus? The baby knew it's a Stegosaurus, not an elephant. But if you think about it, this was long before there was the study of paleontology, and long before the theory of evolution even was introduced, long before these arguments happened, long before the evolutionary theory was pushed out in academia. So they had also no dog in the fight. They're just depicting their life and their world. It's hard to argue with that. By the way, there's also been now several fossils. I know that there was a couple of T-Rex fossils, and I think there's some other ones where they've been able to extract soft tissue samples, actually soft tissue samples from a T-Rex, I know for sure. And so you know what some of the scientists in academia, what their answer was to that? You can't make it up. They said, oh, well, now they've decided that soft tissue can also last for 70 million years. They just changed the way that they force fit it into their theory, and without ever realizing or suggesting that maybe there's a better explanation for how these things are showing up. I know Madison mentioned before we started here that there's fossils of dinosaur prints and human footprints that are side by side. And we're not,
There's one where a human footprint's on top of the dinosaur footprint.
okay, so it was like came in later on.
Or they came in together, or one was on top of the other two.
Yeah.
They were
Made at the same time period, basically. Yeah, let's show the next picture too. Now, in full disclosure, this one, this is just one of several stones. They're Ica. I don't know how you pronounce it. Stones, but obviously these depict dinosaurs. Now, you will find in any of these artifacts, you will find arguments about their origin. So, you can do your own research and make some decisions for yourself. But this one in particular, these stones, there were some arguments about the origin. Is full disclosure, so you guys can make your own. But the point is that it's not just a few. Even if you find, or if there's determined there's frauds in there somewhere, there's so many of them that all it would take, honestly, is one that's authentic to turn over the entire theory before they're going around and digging up dinosaur bones and trying to make theories about it.
There's lots of ancient temples and
yes,
that have
but depictions of dinosaurs
so.
in ancient temples, in which I think the Stegosaur was a temple, was where that one was. And there are other ones too. There's some in the walls in Egypt. But there's so many, I just literally grabbed a few. Otherwise, this packet would be 30 pages long. Do what? So, Job, and I don't know if I mentioned on here yet, is the oldest book in the Bible, excuse me, written down. He probably was contemporary, probably around the time of Abraham, but Moses, who wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, came later on. So the first 5 books of the Bible were actually written down after this one. So this text is the oldest book we have of the whole Bible. And here we have already a dinosaur being described. If you want to try to make yourself believe that it's an elephant, more power to you. But I just can't think that this can be an elephant. So 22, let's just keep going. The lotus trees cover him with their shade. The willows by the brooks surround him. This is exactly what the reports in the Congo say, by the way, is that this creature wades in the rivers and in the marshes, and this is exactly where they're found and their behavior.
Mentioned the thing about the tail being like a cedar.
Yes.
The cedar trees are like 30 feet tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the tail would be like 30 feet.
Yeah.
That's like long. Hippos have like no tail.
I was reading a book about a cedar tree, and it said like over 50 men could fit
inside of a cedar tree.
Like
wow.
On top of a stone.
Wow. So I'm not, as much as I love to go into all the story of creation and go into lay out all of the things that I know about, to lay out about why the evolutionary theory falls apart. I don't have time to do all that tonight. We're just hitting some highlights. But we're establishing basically that there is so much evidence that dinosaurs and human beings existed together, and that may even still exist together today. My teacher beside me over here has been having a really hard time with this. She's being so good by just holding her tongue. So, indeed, the river may rage, yet he is not disturbed. He is confident, though the Jordan gushes into his mouth, though he takes it in his eyes, or one pierces his nose with a snare. So basically, he's so big and so powerful that the raging river doesn't bother him a bit. He's just laying there in the marsh, and it's not. I don't know if anybody else has ever been swept away by a river. I have. I was a kid. It was, I could have died. It was a whole thing, but in the Spring River. But anyway, I definitely it's real. If you've ever felt the power of any kind of like ocean wave or current or river current, it's overwhelming. Of course, I was a kid, but still, it's overwhelming. But this guy is not overwhelmed at all. Okay, now we're going on to chapter 41, and we're going to talk about the next creature. This one might be even harder. The dinosaur is one thing to stretch your mind. This one might even be harder, especially for the academics in the room. Dragons. But just hold your horses for a second. Let's see.
That's easy.
Oh, that one's easy. It's just
that
so
one's
weird.
easy.
That one's easy.
That one's easy. You okay? So weird. They have a harder time with the
They're
with
like
the dinosaur.
same. Like dragons and dinosaurs would
They
be
just
like
have wings.
the same.
Dragons are seen in other places in the Bible. Show me where dinosaurs are in other places in the Bible.
You're so smart.
I'm telling you, it's this book specifically.
Dinosaur wasn't a word until like the 1700s, 1800s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show me where behemoth and other things that are alluding to what we now call a dinosaur. Leviathan is different.
Leviathan is the dragon. So we're about to talk about that. Look at you, smarty
See,
pants.
because again, it's mentioned elsewhere, so no problem with that. It's Job itself.
All right, let's get through it. We'll talk about it in a minute. All right, now I'd put in here as a note Genesis 1:21. So God created sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. All right, now the sea creatures, that word, the Hebrew word sea creatures, some versions say whales. In Hebrew is the word tanian, which is translated in 20 other places as dragons or sea monsters or serpents. But in this particular place, it's translated sea creatures or whales for whatever reason. But there's historical accounts and legends from numerous cultures describe the same creature, dragons, and many contemporary reports continue today. So let me show you the picture real quick, just because it's cool. Obviously, that's a drawing, okay? A modern drawing, but it's cool because this is exactly what is being described. A fire-breathing sea dragon. That's what we're about to encounter. So, but in 1977, there was a case where some Japanese fishermen pulled up from 900 feet down the remains of a plesiosaur-like creature, which would be a dinosaur, but I put it in here because it's from the sea in this place, okay? This was and this thing was so big, and different accounts say the weight of it. This one, I remember it being 3,000 or 4,000 pounds. 4,000 pounds, thank you. 4,000 pounds. Basically, it was so big that they couldn't take it back to land. It was so big they couldn't put it in their boat. So what they did was they documented it, they took pictures of it, and they had to throw it back because it was a rotting carcass. But it was it was rotting, so it had to have been alive fairly recently. And I don't know, for those here, if you can see this picture, let me see if it's on there. This one down here. But if you Google that account, you can see all kinds of different pictures of it. But they were unable to pull it into land because it just would not fit in the boat. So they did their best to take pictures of it and document it, and they had to throw it back. But it would be sort of like a plesiosaur. What it looked like was a plesiosaur. Okay, so we start with verse 1 of chapter 41. You ready? This is God still speaking to Job. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or snare his tongue with a line in which you lower? Can you put a reed through his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many supplications to you? Will he speak softly to you? Will he make a covenant with you? Will you take him as a servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird? Or will you leash him for your maidens? Will your companions make a banquet of him? Will they apportion him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hand upon him. Remember the battle. Never do it again. Indeed, any hope of overcoming him is false. Shall one not be overwhelmed at the sight of him? No one is so fierce that he would dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand against me? Who has preceded me that I should pay him? Everything under heaven is mine. I will not conceal his limbs, his mighty power, or his graceful proportions. Who can remove his outer coat? Who can approach him with a double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face with his terrible teeth all around? His rows of scales are his pride. Shut up tightly with a seal. One is so near the other that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together and cannot be parted. So this is the note. It's clear that Leviathan cannot be captured or slain by human efforts. It's also clear that this creature is not a crocodile or a whale, as some commentators suggest. So in the notes of some Bibles, it'll suggest some of these modern animals, and obviously this is not a crocodile. Verse 18. Sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lights. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke goes out of his nostrils, as from a boiling pot, and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. So this creature breathes fire. So here's the note. Get this is really cool. Some dinosaur fossils have been excavated that show strange protrusions with an internal cavity on the top of the head. It's been suggested that this might have served as a mixing chamber for combustible gases that would ignite when exhaled into the outside oxygen. Is it really that far-fetched when we consider the incredible creatures that we observe today that have bioluminescence, electricity, and poisons that affect the prey but not themselves? One of the main coolest examples of this is a bug. A bug is called the bombardier beetle. The bombardier beetle's explosive defense. Okay? This beetle, and this, by the way, if you were going to debate evolution with someone, this one bug disproves the theory of natural selection. Because in the theory of natural selection, these changes in an animal, in a species, would happen small little increments at a time. And if there were mistakes, that creature, as noted by its own theory, would die off. The theory of natural selection. If it made a mistake, it would die, right? Okay, so this beetle belongs to the family of Carabidae, or however you say that. Is renowned for its unique defense mechanism. It possesses specialized glands that store two chemicals, hydrogen peroxide and hydroquinone. When threatened, the beetle combines these chemicals in a reaction chamber, producing a rapid exothermic reaction that generates boiling hot, noxious gas and liquid. It's literally at a 212 degree temperature. It's boiling hot, noxious chemical. This explosive discharge can reach temperatures of 100 Celsius, which is 212 Fahrenheit, and is ejected with a popping sound, effectively deterring predators. This is one of the reasons why I put this in here. Adaptation showcases the beetle's evolutionary ingenuity and survival. It literally could not be an evolutionary survival mechanism because one mistake and that beetle would explode. It if those two gases were to mix together inside the beetle's body, it would just explode and boil there's no way, and then the whole process would have to start over. It's beyond reason to think that happened in little incremental steps. But that right there is the coolest example, I think, of, you can't prove that by evolution. Okay.
I know what Taylor's thinking right now.
Taylor, what are you thinking right now?
I can see your face.
Taylor has a stank face.
Nothing.
She does.
I'm
She's processing. She's processing.
Luke, don't laugh.
Okay, so I just put these other animals in here because why can we not? Why is it so hard to believe that there is a creature that can breathe fire with the ones that we know about and how crazy amazing those are? So these are just a few, and this print comes out very dark. Sorry about that. But there's, of course, the anglerfish that lures predators in by the bioluminescence of that little fishing. We know it because of Finding Nemo, right? The fishing lure, Finding Nemo. And then you have a smoke screen. What is that?
copepod.
Thank you. Copepod makes a cloud of blue light, and it blinds the predator while it escapes. Then there is a fish that is counter-illumination, creates light on its belly so that its outline is not seen by a predator from below. Then there is a worm that snaps off a glowing bomb. The predator chases the bomb while the worm escapes. Then there's but this one's really cool, the burglar alarm. A jellyfish, when it's attacked by a prawn, responds by producing light. A nearby squid sees the light from the jellyfish. Then the squid attacks the prawn and the jellyfish is saved. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
And just those crazy, amazing things that we know just from, these are creatures that we know and observe today. So why is it so far-fetched when we consider all that there would be a creature that breathes fire? Yes.
So the shrimp is, the jellyfish is a prey,
Yes.
and the squid is a predator.
Yes.
Why does the squid save the prey?
He's not trying to save the jellyfish. He's just eating the shrimp. He's just eating the shrimp. Yes.
When we had the dragon, the bearded dragon,
Yeah.
I went to put my hand in there for some reason, and it like hissed at me, and it was hot. Its breath was hot.
No way.
Yes. And I
A
was
bearded
like,
dragon.
It was really hot, and I was like, because I know that they store their heat, and he like expelled all his heat at me to get me to leave him alone.
That's crazy.
So I was like, I don't know. It made me think.
If there's a bug that can ignite an explosive bomb, a boiling chemical,
yeah,
why can there not be fire-breathing dragon? That's just what I say. A bug. I hate bugs.
She has a question.
What's your question?
So the bug, you had me with the bug.
All right.
And I fully am not contradicting because, the ocean is terrifying. You have no idea what's under there.
Right.
I'm not understanding your connection with bioluminescence to fire-breathing dragon.
All I'm saying is that it's not so far-fetched that there could be a creature that could breathe fire when these things are cool. That's all I'm saying.
like
That's all I'm saying.
bioluminescence,
Yeah, bioluminescence,
poisons. You could have
the electric eel.
electricity,
If we didn't know, if we had,
Fire-breathing.
and fire.
I'm just...
you don't think bioluminescence is fascinating?
I think it's
That's
fascinating,
cool.
But compared to fire-breathing? Nah, fire-breathing is up here. I'm like, bioluminescence is
Bioluminescence doesn't really make. That seems
really high.
making lights.
You have somebody agreeing with you
Nothing
down
else.
here.
I mean, that's crazy.
The
That's kind of crazy.
Lightning bugs. Lightning bugs.
And that's
It's just
Yeah.
because they're familiar to us. That's
Yeah.
why it's easier. It's why it's easier. What?
so um so the dragon's like this high,
Yeah.
and the other thing that you just said is really low
Mhm.
because the dragon can just easily take it down because it got because it's like bigger than it and it got like fire that it can like breathe on.
Yeah. It would be
Like,
top predator, apex predator. Okay, so here's the notes. I'm still on notes. Dragons appear throughout history in almost every single culture. Both Chinese and Japanese dragons are usually wingless, but were also believed to be able to change their size at will. This is their mythology, even to the point of becoming invisible. They were referred to as the power of the air, which is a provocative biblical reference. Not building theory on it, where it's just provocative, just something to think about. So if you consider that in Revelation, the seventh bowl, which is the final judgment in Revelation, is poured out on the air as a judgment on the prince of the power of the air. Some of the biblical references to Leviathan could not literally apply to an animal, but seem to apply ultimately to Satan. So yes, Leviathan was a real animal, maybe still is. But there is a double meaning here, okay? So we're going to talk about some places in the Bible where we see these animals that are referred to. It's in Job. God is pointing to literal animals. But there is another, they're also used as analogies in other places in scripture. That's my point. These animals are used as analogies in other places, okay? So in Psalm 104:24, O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions. This great and wide sea, in which are innumerable teeming things, living things, both small and great. There the ships sail about. There is that Leviathan, which you have made to play there. It's just a reference where Leviathan is referred to in the Psalms as an animal. And there's other tales that are not really that long ago in the great scheme of things, of sailors and ship captains and such that describe these kind of creatures. I mean, how would you ever prove it? It would just be like a Bigfoot sighting.
I just want to point out that
Yeah.
Job is the oldest book in the Bible, but Psalms
Right.
is
More
more
recent.
recent.
Psalms is
and
more
they're
recent.
still
Recent.
talking about the same creature.
Still talking about the Leviathan. And the sea is something that we only have maybe a quarter of it. Do we even know about? Is that the
Not
case?
even that.
No.
Not even the quarter that we have. So who knows? It could still be there. It wouldn't surprise me a bit. We don't know what's there. All right.
Where is he today?
The Lord could literally say, "Come, don't
But he
come
was-
past this
he-
point."
If they're
Yeah.
talking about him and stuff, clearly he
Oh,
was
no.
making appearances and doing all this stuff. And then what, he just decides to dip out?
Is this where
But the Lord could say, "No."
Right.
Your time has come. Sink.
Yeah, I mean, how would you? I mean, it may be that there's just no surviving witnesses to this creature. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe
Or
God's like, "I want to confound the wise and just conceal it away since they don't believe anyway."
I believe. I just want to see one.
we will eventually. Okay, let's continue. Verse 22. Verse 22. Strength dwells in his neck, and sorrow dances before him. The poetry is so cool. Sorrow dances before him. The folds of his flesh are joined together. They are firm on him and cannot be moved. His heart is as hard as a stone, even as hard as a lower millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid. Because of his crashings, they are beside themselves. Though the sword reaches him, it cannot avail, nor does spear, dart, or javelin. He regards iron as straw and bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones become like stubble to him. Darts are regarded as straw, and he laughs at the threat of javelins. His undersides are like shot potsherds. He spreads pointed marks in the mire. He makes the deep boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a pot of ointment. He leaves a shining wake behind him. One would think the deep had white hair. I love that line. On earth there is nothing like him, which is made without fear. He beholds every high thing, and listen to this, he is king over all the children of pride. So that right there's the one line that starts to cross over into an analogy.
Well, if Satan is a serpent
Satan is a serpent and a dragon.
and a dragon.
And a dragon.
And isn't it funny that I just talked about how Satan fell because of pride today?
Wow.
I swear you two planned this.
We don't plan it.
I did
And then just
not.
pretend to fool us all.
No,
We do not plan it.
I did
They've
not.
been fooling me then.
For years.
I'm around.
All right, so
Well, no,
there.
because isn't there also a reference to, like, as Satan being the great Leviathan, and something about, like, taking up your sword and slaying him in reference to, like, Satan?
There's not one in taking up your sword against Leviathan, but there's other references to Leviathan. Yeah, we're gonna get there. So there's two places that I was gonna point out in Scripture that speak of they're speaking of how there are powers, spiritual powers that are behind. There's two places where the Lord is speaking of an actual king in Scripture, but then the language changes, and suddenly it's obviously not talking about the king anymore. So he's addressing a king, and then all of a sudden the language changes. So here's one. He's speaking in Isaiah 14 of the fall of the king of Babylon. It shall come to pass in the day the Lord gives you rest from your sorrow and from your fear and hard bondage in which you were made to serve, that you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers. He who struck the people of wrath with a continual stroke, he who ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted and no one hinders. The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. Indeed, the cypress trees rejoice over you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you were cut down, no woodsman has come up against us. Hell from beneath is excited about you to meet you at your coming. It stirs up the dead for you and all the chief ones of the earth. It's raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. They all shall speak and say to you, have you also become as weak as we? Have you become like us? Your pomp is brought you down to Sheol, and the sound of your stringed instruments. The maggot is spread under you, and worms cover you. Now it starts talking about Lucifer, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how you are cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend.
I read this today in my sermon, dude. This exact thing I read.
I promise we
Come
don't.
on, what more proof do you need?
I have no issue over Leviathan.
All right. This is crazy.
That's
I
crazy.
Can't. I can't.
I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation, on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, and I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. Like, out of all the days I would read that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Then here's one in Ezekiel 28. Similar. It's similar because in here he's talking about the king of Tyre and does the same thing. So basically he's talking in Isaiah, he's speaking about the king of Babylon, and then all of a sudden language changes and he's addressing Satan himself. So it's like there is the power behind the office, the power behind the throne. So here again in Ezekiel, the king of Tyre, he's addressing the king of Tyre, the person, the king, and then there is a power behind the throne that he's addressing. So in Ezekiel 28, moreover, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre, and say to him, Thus says the Lord God, you were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. That's obviously not the king of Tyre. That's obviously he's talking about Satan, right? Every precious stone was your covering: the sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, emerald with gold. The workmanship of your timbrels with pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. You were anointed, the cherub who covers. I established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of the fiery stones. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, till iniquity was found in you. By the abundance of your trading, you became filled with violence within, and you sinned. Therefore, I cast you down as a profane thing out of the mountain of God, and I destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the fiery stones. Then Isaiah 27 says, In that day the Lord with his severe sword, great and strong. This is probably what you're thinking. His severe sword, great and strong, will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent. Leviathan, that twisted serpent. So Leviathan in Job literally can be translated as the twisted one. So Leviathan, the twisted serpent. Just how Satan twists and perverts. He takes things that are true. He takes even DNA and biology that is true and right and in order after its kind, and he twists it. So the twisted serpent. Okay. And he will slay the reptile that is in the sea. Okay. Now, I know this seems like a lot, but I'm getting to a point. In Revelation 12, it speaks again about Leviathan. So I'm about to make the case for how this creature that we've established is also used as an analogy for Satan at times. And we'll see here in Revelation 12. Now we're in Job. So if you remember the fact that we're in Job and you start to see this tie-in, Revelation 12. War broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth. His angels were cast out with him. Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren, who accused them before God day and night, has been cast down. So here in Revelation, Leviathan is called the accuser of the brethren. So you think about Job and what he's been through.
He'll curse you to his face, accusing Job.
Yes.
To God.
Accusing Job so Satan has been in front of God accusing Job this whole time. And now the Lord is saying in Revelation that the accuser of the brethren, the power behind, the spirit behind that, is going to ultimately be cast down. Now, why has God not done it already? Why does he allow it? Why does he allow testing? Why did he allow all this? This is the great question of the whole book of Job. But God allows our testing at times for our growth and to produce fruit. So we see in Luke 22, and the Lord said, he's talking to Peter. The Lord said, Simon, Simon, indeed Satan has asked for you that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for you that your faith should not fail. And when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren. Okay, here's a note. He didn't pray that Peter would not fail. He prayed that his faith would not fail. Jesus is our defense counselor daily, praying for us before the throne. There's a reference to that in Hebrews 7:25.
He's kind of saying, like, he's asked to sift you as wheat. Like, you're going to deny me.
Right.
But when you return to me, it says he knows that he'll return to him
Yes.
after it be restored.
Yes.
So that his faith wouldn't fail and him, like, run away like Judas. Because Judas is failed.
Right. So Jesus does not pray that he doesn't rebuke Satan. He doesn't stop the test from happening. And he doesn't pray that Peter would not fail, that he would just like not fail the test. He prays that his faith would not fail. And that when he returns, strengthen your brethren. So there is a purpose in it. And after this, because Peter does fail, and his faith is really shaken, and he weeps and mourns a lot. And then after he's restored, in the day of Pentecost, there is fruit of 3,000 souls saved at the day of Pentecost. That was Peter. He goes in the span of 40 days, he goes from this broken man that fails this test to producing the fruit of 3,000 souls saved. And that he could not have, if you really think about it, he could not have moved the hearts of 3,000 men without having survived that test. It wouldn't be the same. It has to come from that matured faith that only comes through the fiery trial. It's only through the fiery trial that this kind of fruit is produced. Does that make sense? Okay. Job 40:19. We're going to go back to 40:19. The behemoth, remember when I pointed that out? The behemoth he is chief of God's works, made to be a tyrant over his peers. So we just looked at two animals, one land animal, the behemoth, and one sea creature, the Leviathan. One land animal is held up as the chief, like he's the one that is the apex over all of the other land animals. And then there's the sea creature, the Leviathan. But the behemoth, if you remember, he's made to be a tyrant over his peers. The behemoth is described as having the desire to rule over everyone else, tyranny over all. This also describes our fleshly nature, self-sufficiency, self-centered. This is the enemy within us. The Leviathan is alluded to as a malevolent evil spirit. He beholds all things, and he is king over the children of pride. So there are two things that Job has encountered in this entire test. One is himself. The behemoth is held up as, can you contend with that? Can you contend with that? It's an analogy of our own stinking flesh, our own pride, our desire to be self-sufficient, our desire to rule over others. We've had a long day with just trying to discipline the kids in the room. Not me personally, the moms, of trying to discipline kids, because that's our human nature. It's human nature to push everybody else around and be the ruler of all. basically. And that is part of what has to be disciplined out of us as small kids. Okay. There's an emphasis in the text on how unconquerable these two things are. A reference in Jeremiah seems to lay out some perspective. Jeremiah 12:5, if you have run with footmen and they have wearied you, how can you contend with horses? That may be a a little bit of a veiled or a stretch, but if you think about it, if you can say that the behemoth, which is an analogy of our fleshly pride, if we can't even conquer that, how can we think we can conquer Leviathan? How do we think that we can't contend with either one? We can't conquer either one. That was the whole point of God laying out this whole thing, is we can't conquer either one of these creatures. God has brought Job to an awareness that these are the very things that he has in his heart and life. They are the forces over which he has no control. Job's real problem was not the loss of his family and possessions and health. It was himself. God was teaching Job lessons that he could not have learned any other way. And I don't like that. I'll be honest, I don't like that. I was thinking about, and I'm going to do one more lesson in Job, and I promise it'll be worth it, even though this whole thing has been torture for Taylor, which I applaud you for hanging in there.
Can we go back to that very last line, please?
That last line. Here we go. Last line. Yes.
It was to teach Job a lesson, not the loss of his family, possessions, and health.
Uh-huh.
But what about the family that died? What about their lesson that they could have, like, oh, I have issues. They just died?
They had their,
It
well,
was just children. I mean,
they were
children were
adult
probably-
children. They were adult children.
they were.
They're
Yeah,
not
they were
like-
adult
they're not-
children. They were adult enough to be having their own banquets and stuff. Yeah, they were adult children.
So their lives
Yeah.
cut short to teach him a lesson? So they're fodder?
No,
No.
they're not fodder. They have, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that other than to say every single person has a unique purpose, and we can assume, probably,
That their purpose was to die in this test?
no, that their purpose was fulfilled in other ways inside of their life. But you have to remember, too, that their life is not cut off and ended. I mean, it will continue in eternity. Their life here on earth is ended. Their life continues in eternity. We have such short-sighted viewpoint of what life is. We think that life is just these 70 years or less or more, and then that's it. And that's just not the truth. This life is testing ground. This life only establishes what we're going to be doing in the next life. That's it. Whether or not we accept the Messiah and we are saved, and also it will establish what our position will be in eternity. That's all this life is. It is so short. It is a blip. And it is a mistake on our part to think that this is it.
Right, like there's some other thing we have to experience or learn, or
Right.
the Lord has all your days written.
Yes.
Either way.
And this is a little bit of a derailment from that, but I wanted, before I forget, some of the things, it'll be kind of a precursor for next week, and we will actually finish the book next week. Okay. You don't want to? Okay, I'm glad. This was great. This is my favorite chapters in Job. These right here. One would think the deep had white hair is one of my favorite lines. It's just poetic. It's just so cool to think that the sea would have white hair because of that creature. I just love it. One of the things that Job has to contend with, that he has to face, is his own pride, his own self-sufficiency, and realizing that, coming to face with his own wanting to be self-righteous, self-righteousness, justified, wanting to be justified. But I was right. But me. But this is unfair. The easiest way to say it is that this is unfair. And all of us would say in unison, amen, this is unfair. Okay? However, I was thinking the other morning, because it was just one of those mornings I woke, I don't remember what I looked at online or I was thinking about as I was doing my little morning routine. I was walking dogs and kind of quiet. And I was thinking about the fact that whatever I had looked at that morning was proving me right, in air quotes, about some things and subjects that I was literally ridiculed for and called crazy, literally the word crazy for, some years ago by two men that I can think of off the top of my head that have now died and gone on to be with the Lord. Are saved. They're now in heaven. But as I was thinking about now these mainstream topics, they're already gone, right? But now I'm proven right. I'm telling you, I had a moment of really, really wanting to be justified, really wanting to justify myself. Like, I wonder if they know now. When I get to heaven, I wonder if they're going to come up to me and say, Janice, we're sorry. You were right and I was wrong. I'm sorry I called you crazy. We should have listened to you. You were right. That is exactly the same thing that Job is doing. That is a desire for wanting to be justified. It's that moment of when I get to heaven, they're going to know, they're going to see all these things that I have been wronged in all these ways and I've been lied about in all these things. But one day it's all going to be laid out and they're all going to know. There's going to be a day and I'm going to be able to say, I told you so. Even the desire, it's a sinful desire. And I've had to, the Lord often causes you to be tested in the things that you're teaching. And so I have really had to confront myself. I have not conquered it either. It's a behemoth for me also. I have not conquered that. I cannot tell you that I still don't want to say I told you so. I'm just being honest. There's a part of me that still wants to have a moment with some people that have called me crazy in the past, and I want them to say, Janice, you were right.
Yeah, sometimes it's like when you've been trying to explain something to someone for so long and then they finally get it.
Yeah.
And you expect an apology or from them, or expect them to be like, I guess you were right and I was wrong.
Yes.
But
And you don't get it. And now
they just kind of gloss over it.
Over it. And I'll tell you.
I told you.
Right. But I told you. And this is just a small, y'all, I can think of things that mean more to me. Trust me.
Right.
But this is one that's just kind of an easy thing to point to. One of the things was that there was a time when a church we used to attend was faltering and it was having trouble, which a lot of churches these past decade have been the same, faltering. And I had an idea, nobody else seemed to have any ideas, of why don't we do a conference here, get some people in the door, and then we can make some relations. And because it's a known fact, in air quotes, known fact, this is all church building stuff, which who cares? I don't even care anymore. All I care about now is the truth. But there was a time when it was about, church stuff was about church building, right? Like accumulating numbers. But there was a time that it was a known fact that 50% of the battle was getting someone in the door. If someone came in the door for any reason one time, that's why churches put up voting booths. That's why they they open their doors for school plays and whatnot. They get them in, yeah, I see it. They get them in for other reasons that are, just to get people in the door the one time. And it's for, then people are more likely to actually come to a church service. So anyway, at the time I was saying, why don't we have a conference and let's invite, because I knew at the time, this is me justifying myself, God forgive me, I'm just trying to be transparent, because I knew that the younger generation, this generation, y'all, had your finger on the pulse of things like aliens and dark rituals and things like that. So I said, hey, let's have L.A. Marzulli, and then later we added Russ Dizdar, because a lot of times they did things together. And we'll attract some new young blood, some people who actually, and let's do this thing here. Well, I got permission to do it. But then I went about to do it. And I honestly think that they just didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And when I say so, generally, if I say something, my kids can tell you this, I mean it. I'm going to do it. So once it started to form, they came back around to me and they said, okay, you can't really do this here. You can't do this here. We talked about it and we decided it's crazy. It's really crazy. You can't do this. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I never passed on to y'all because I was trying to like promote peace. But anyway, they say, yeah, you can't do this. It's like, okay, but I had already had the balls rolling on the whole thing. So at the last minute, I decided just to find a different location and do it anyway, which is what we did. I just found a different location. We did the conference anyway, and I'm glad I did. It was cool. But nowadays, years later, now Russ Dizdar has died and gone on to be with the Lord. But his name is so respected now, and a lot at the time it was a little unknown. L.A. Marzulli is another one that is so much more well known and respected now. But that's just one thing that I'm like, man, I wish that those men that had their little conference and called me crazy and came back and shut me down and shut that whole thing down and said I was crazy. Now what would they think? You know what I'm saying? I was like, now what do they think? Anyway. That's just, it's not important. It is definitely not the most important thing by far that I would love to be justified on. It's just an easy story for me to tell. To say that is an example of wanting to justify yourself. And I told you so moment. That is what Job has contended with mostly. He's like, I'm telling you, I am right about this. Like the desire to be justified. Anyway, I just want to throw that out there before I forgot about it. And next week we will review and we'll talk about, because there's so many ways that this can be brought into some modern things that we see in what we today call churchianity, problems with churches today and ourselves. So love, love, love. Hope that was good for everybody. I love these chapters in Job. Come back next week for the conclusion. Goodbye.